Welcome to USPJA Academy Labs. USPJA Labs allow you to do assignments, explore SharePoint, or test new software without having a locally installed SharePoint farm. Each lab is a fully virtual instance of a server, which the Academy hosts for you. To log on, simply go to the global menu and click Labs, or go to http://labs.uspja.com. Use your normal USPJA username and password to log on. If you have connected your account with Facebook, you should be automatically logged in to the USPJA Labs when you access the logon page. On the front page of USPJA Labs, you will find important information about how to use, access, and log into your computer labs. Please read this information carefully, as you will need it to access your lab once you have started it. On the Lab Images page in the Application menu, you find the various types of labs you can launch. There are three types of labs available. Lab definitions are core labs or basic labs that serve general purposes. You can see the short description as well as some configuration information about these lab definitions. Lab images are your own images that you have created and chosen to persist. You can launch, delete, or share these images with other users. External images are images created by other users and shared with you. You can launch new lab sessions from any of these lab types. Lab scenarios are a special type of lab that are set up to teach you specific skill, for example, how to handle specific problems or set up a specific solution. The availability of lab scenarios depend on the course you are taking and whether you are a tuition student. You can launch any of these lab scenarios by clicking the launch link and then providing a name for your lab and choosing the lab definition that you want to use for this scenario. Note that you can also use your own lab images for these scenarios. Click the launch button to start your new lab. On the Lab Sessions page, you find your currently running and persisted labs. These virtual machines are yours and you can do with them as you please. You can run only one lab instance at a time. At the top of the Lab Sessions page, you can find information about the currently running lab, including the name you have set for the lab, the address for the lab, and the action which will be taken when the lab shuts down. When you want to connect to a running lab, start by retrieving the lab address from the Lab Sessions page. Then, use an RDP client such as the built-in Remote Desktop Connection application in Windows, mstsc.exe, to connect to the lab address. Please note that when you launch a lab, it may take several minutes before it's available for login. The Lab Sessions page will display the availability of lab login. You may also request an email notification when the lab becomes available for login. To do so, go to the Settings page of the USPJA Labs. The other piece of information you need to connect to your lab is the username and the password. You will find this on the front page of USPJA Labs. Please note that if your current lab has an installation of Windows Active Directory, the domain name is also required, and that will be SP. You are now ready to connect your RDP client to the lab server. Click Connect, and then enter the username and password and include the domain name if your current lab has a Windows Active Directory domain. And then click OK to start the connection. You may get a security warning. If so, click Yes to proceed. The remote desktop application will now connect to the desktop of your server and you are ready to start using your lab. Inside the lab you will find a small application called the USPJA Lab Controller, which gives you access to certain information and some features of your lab. For instance, you can see the time left before the lab automatically shuts down and also the action taken when that lab shuts down. You can also change this, but please remember to click the Update button after you have made any changes. You can also find lab information if your lab is a lab scenario. This information may not always be available in some scenarios. You should leave the USPJA lab controller running at all times, but you can minimize it if you don't want to have it open. If you minimize it, it goes down into the taskbar, and you can mouse over it to see how much time is left. You can also double click it if you want to reopen it. When the lab is about to shut down, the USPJA lab controller will open up and let you know that the lab is about to expire. However, you can easily extend the lab session by clicking the Extend button. This will allow you to extend the lab for an hour at a time. If you want to move files between your local machine and the USPJA lab, you need to make some changes in the remote desktop connection application. Click the Options button, and then go to the Local Resources tab. You can then connect any local resources to your USPJA labs. If you want to connect local disks, you can do so as well. Please select the disks that you want to have available on your USPJA lab. You need to reconnect to your lab in order for these local resources to be available. Once you are back in your lab, you can open the local resources and local drives by opening Windows Explorer and going to the Computer node in Windows Explorer. There you will see the local disks that you have connected to the USPJA lab. You can now move files back and forth between the two computers.